a lot of, let me say, without much, let me just, then I'm not going to share any screen. We're just going to discuss. So feel free, and probably I want you to be, contributing as much as you can. So take note of that. Yeah. So with that being said, I know from now going, I mean, up to this level, you know what data science is, and at least you know some kind of data science. I mean, what a data scientist do. Not if you don't know, I mean, everything, you know, at least most of the things data science do, or some of the things a data scientist, I mean, normally does. But maybe you don't know most of the places a data scientist actually work, and then most of the things they do in their workplaces, and what you are expected to have, the kind of skills you are expected to have, and the new trends popping up. So that is why I just wanted to spend some few today, very short one, some few time with you, and you know, throw some light on those stuff. And this is actually an inspiration from my recent interview I had with a company in the US. So looking at the process and then things they expected and all where it's going and all those, that I felt like at least let me share the insights I got from that with you all, and then you would learn something from it as well. So without even, I mean, before I proceed, does any of you, have you ever applied for job before in your life? I mean, I know some of us are students, some of us are NSS people. So Josephine, you welcome. I hope you're having a great day. We've made you. Yeah, I'm sure your network, we couldn't hear from you. So, like I was saying, I just want to know, has anyone, I mean, any of us applied for a job before? I mean, whether it is in Ghana or it is in wherever, outside Ghana. Jude, have you ever applied for jobs before, like full-time jobs or part-time? Okay, that's cool. Then you were lucky. That's good. Indeed, your network is your network, right? Okay, so Vesta, have you ever, I mean, applied for job before? So have you granted some interviews? I mean, okay, I see. That's cool. That's really interesting to, I mean, to know. Martin said he went, but they didn't take him. I'm very, very sorry. It's part of life, you know. You go, you do. I mean, your time will come, basically. So let's keep trying, Martin. Ebefa. I know Josephine here, you have a lot of things to tell us. So you'll be the last person. Let me move on to Fridolin. Fridolin, how are you doing? If you can hear from me today, I just want to ask, have you ever applied for a job before? If yes, how was your experience? Were you able to land an interview? And if you landed, how was your interview experience? Did you pass or you were sacked or rejected? Maybe it's rejected, yeah. Fridolin, are you there? So I think Fridolin isn't ready yet. So Miss, Josephine, please, we want to know what has your period. And I know for Josephine that she's been working for 10 years. 50 years or maybe some many years. So Josephine, how has your experience been? I mean, how was your first job? Wow. Now she is a CEO. If you don't know, so just feel like your in your early career, like your early days in your career. I mean, how was the how was the interview like? How was it like? That's good. And that's awesome. Yeah. Thank you very much. I think, yeah, you said it all, and I'm sure some of us who have never applied for jobs, some of us the only interviews we've had in our life is maybe school prefect interview or class prefect interview or maybe section prefect. Those of us who went to Saito and those ones, like or probably some positions and but it's all part of life. They are all interviews, but in the job space, it's quite different depending on the country. If it's a foreign company, it's quite different. And but there are some similarities, just like Josephine said. It cuts across. Those things cut across, but there are some variations also in there. So basically, okay, there's one more person left. I think Josephine has said a lot, and we will take it from there. Yeah. So Ebenezer, Charlie, you're welcome. I'm sure Ebenezer has had some couple of interviews before being picked as a teacher. Yeah. So can you share your interview? I mean, experiences with us, your job application. How was it? Yeah. Good evening. Wow, that's good. I wish you the very best of luck, and we all pray that you get whatever you want. Yeah, and thank you for sharing your experience with us. Sure. So, guys, if you see the whole thing, you would see that something cuts across. That is, in job application is actually a process, and from me, my experience, and a lot of people, if it is fine if you apply for first, second, third jobs and you don't get it. It looks like, I mean, it's something like having a woman. Like a guy when you're starting and you see like you want to have a girlfriend. Let me put it that way. We the Muslims, we mostly um, like you want to marry, so ours is different. This thing, but let's be general. You want to have a girlfriend now because you are not maybe financially stable and all those stuff. You will struggle a bit. You have to sometimes lower your expectations. Sometimes you get it in. The kind of woman you want, Sally, when you drew, you get it in. If not, you haven't reached the level of Vesta, and then just feel see you for you get it in. So probably you have to go down to the Kokura phone, and then you get it in. So the whole thing is sometimes you have to cut down your expectations because of your experience. Because in this world, experience they say is the best teacher. And it is very true. If you are inexperienced, no matter how knowledgeable, smart, and everything you are, you tend to be in some. when there is a very critical situation or in dire situations, you become dumb and you make stupid decisions. Sorry for using the word. So companies mostly want, even in a junior role, they want at least a minded person with some minimal, experience. That's why you see entry level roles and they tell you 2, 3 years experience and all those that. And one other thing apart from you applying, obviously you have your CV, and every type of job actually has its different kind. Special kind of CV you do, and you also write up like aptitude tests sometimes. But now it is becoming very common, especially in the tech world. You would write an aptitude test, and these aptitude tests are mostly around some general concept around the role you are applying or your field of work or experience, and yeah, it depends on them. But when we come to tech, what actually differs from the normal world interview is that for tech, if mostly you are going for tech interviews, you go for 3 rounds of interviews. Yeah, it's crazy, Charlie. So mostly 3 rounds of interviews. So after you apply, it depends. Some of the jobs you don't do aptitude test because you have 3 rounds of interviews. The first interview is where you have your aptitude test, and some of them you have to take aptitude test. Most of the times, if the role is either senior level role or it is going to be, it's kind of flexible. You get it? You need some aptitude test, or if the role is, the work is very hard, they feel like we need to really get very, you know, very, very smart people, very enduring people to do. So they put some measures there to, filter the old ones out, something like that. So when you apply, you get your CV ready, and in tech, most of the time, Sally, your CV doesn't mostly count like that. You know, CV, and even on the CV, your education and all those things do not count like that. Let me tell you the truth. In the tech world, you will see if you go to LinkedIn, you go and type data science, and you click, you will see minimum masters, minimum PhD, but they will say or sorry, experience. Now the tech in the tech world, they realize that school is, school doesn't teach you skills that much. It is rather giving you some theories and general knowledge. And looking at the success of a lot of people who drop out of school, or who have not even been to school at all, tertiary, and they make it in life, they feel more like, even sometimes when you employ the graduates, it is a lot more harder for you have to do a lot more work on them for them to be who you want. But the self-taught people who are who didn't go to the tertiary to maybe probably go and learn a particular profession, they know better. And I think you and I can testify to that. So most of the times your education doesn't matter, especially if it is a junior or mid-level role. For executive and senior level roles, sometimes they want masters, PhD because of their own reasons or something like that. So with that being said, what they really care about is your skill set and your experience. Experience in the sense of the projects you've worked on and your previous work experiences. So we are beginners in the field of data science. So your experience will come from the other works or part-time stuff you've done. And if you don't have that, your experience will come from the projects you've worked on. So the projects are going to stand in as an experience for you, because if you worked on a very interesting project and you use pandas in the project, we assume that then you know pandas. You get it? So if I am interviewing you for a role which I'll know this role involves a lot of pandas in your daily work, then I can get from the work or your projects you've done. If you mostly use pandas or you've used pandas for your projects, then I know that okay, with this amount of pandas used, I think at least he has some basic understanding of, he or she has basic understanding of the two, something like that. So skills is much more important. Skills and experience is the most important thing on your CV. So you see people, everything is about your skills and the experiences, and the education will be at the corner there somewhere. Just education, maybe bachelor of um, science, actuarial science, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, something like that. And another thing also is that you need to really understand concepts, not just codes. That is why some people are there, they will tell you, I'm very good. Like when you see them, they are very, very good. But you know, like this person knows what he's doing. But they will apply for a lot of jobs, go for interviews, and they won't pass. The reason is when you read the aptitude test, mostly we do that to kind of like see your understanding of the general understanding of the concept. So let me give you one example. I applied for a role in one of the AI companies in the US as LLM Python data scientist. LLM means large language models like ChatGPT and Co. So the role, it wants someone who is going to create um, or kind of like prepare the data sets they use for training the models and all those stuff. So you should have a strong knowledge of Python, and then you should be very experienced with data science. And you are not going to do more of machine learning there. You should be general data science. So when I went in, my first interview or the first round of interviews in most of the tech jobs, you do with someone who is, let's say, is a mid-level or senior level in your who is in your on your team, the team you are going to join. So when I went on, we had two rounds, two sets. The first set was more like I read the question to you, then you give me what you think, give me your suggestions. And he asked me, for example, when do you one of the questions that so let's say you have data sets, and then these data sets has a lot of variables. Some are categorical, some are numerical, but there are missing values in them. How are you going to go about that? How are you going to handle that? And I'm sure you've started, answering it in your head. So let's pick one as the interviewee and I'm interviewer. So who should I even pick? Let me pick who would volunteer to be the interviewee. Obiasuru. Vesta, are you there? Vesta, are you there? I hope you can hear from me, and I know you can. Don't worry, we're not going to. Yeah, are you? I want you to be an interviewee, and I'll be the interviewer. I want to ask you some questions, and then you answer. Don't worry if you get it wrong. It's just practice. I just want to draw some lines for us. Are you cool? I know, I know you heard the first call where you were like, Charlie, everybody is saying, I don't want to be, I don't want this guy to call me. But unfortunately, we will call one. Yeah. It's not anything big. Like I'm not going to ask you very technical questions, and if you don't know any of us, so all of us are interviewee. You get it? So you are going to be starting. Is that cool? Is that cool? Are you ready? Okay. So I'll just ask you, Vesta, you're welcome. Can you tell me who you are and a little bit about you? You see, just be fine. You, I will tell you something. In an interview, like the composure, psychology, simple psychology shows that if someone is talking and the person is fumbling, the person is lying. You get it? That is a notion. So if I ask you a question and you are lagging and you stop and you are now going to think, there's a high probability whatever you tell me, there is some element of lie in it. That is one thing interviewers look at. So, in view of that, you you know when you miss, or let's say you realize you missed something, keep going and just factor it in. You get it? But you don't pause and be like, that is one thing. To prove to the person that you are confident. So your confidence will let the person feel like, oh, this person knows what he or she is saying. And there is, I have to believe it. You get it? So don't worry. And then when we ask you who you are, mostly you should you should ask yourself this: what is the nicest way for me to say? Curate yourself to the job. This is a data science job. So talk about I am Vesta, you get it in I have a degree in actuarial science, not necessarily talking about your school. You get it in. I have a degree in actuarial science and you start talking about like maybe your experience. I've worked as blah blah blah, I've worked at that and then I have this experience, I love doing this, that's all. Done. And not really talking much about. So the person would then ask if I want to know the school you completed. Okay, Vesta, you are a graduate of which school? Then you say. But if you don't, you cannot say anything. There is time for you, like very limited time. So that is one thing we should know. So maybe you can bring it. You can come again, right? Okay, that's awesome about you, Vesta. So you've said a lot about yourself, and I think I like your biography. So you said you did your NSS with the Koku Health something. So the auditing department, right? What are some of the things you did? Okay, that is very awesome. Now let me give you one thing. You've done very well. There is one thing I just remembered. You know, when you are interviewing, you don't say I am an enthusiast. Enthusiast means you don't know much. You get it? You want to. You get it? You are passionate about the thing, but you don't know. Even if you know just one thing in data science, you applied for a job for data science. So I am a data scientist with maybe a very minimal years of experience, or I'm a beginner or an entry level data scientist. I'm not saying enthusiast. You get it? That is two different things. So that is something. And then mostly how interviewers, they don't have the questions set already most of the times. So when you start talking, you said you are a risk lover. So if I was the interviewer, I'll ask you, what do you mean by being a risk lover? Do you get it? And then you explain. Probably then I asked you, so how is that going to help you as a data scientist? You get it? So that is how, so it's more like critical thinking. So that was how I was asked. And then he asked me, let me ask this question. All of us are going to answer. So he asked me, like I said, so Muta, you have a data set which has a lot of columns or variables. Some of the variables are categorical, some of them are numerical, and all of like there are missing values in almost any of them. So how are you going to go about handling the missing values? So West, if I ask you this question, what do you think you say? Okay. Okay, so let me take it again, right? You are working on a data set, or you are working with a data set. That this data has a lot of columns or variables. Some of these variables are numerical, others are categorical. So you have missing values in them, in both the categorical and then the numerical. How are you going to handle these missing values? So how are you going to handle it? That is the question, right? Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you very much for your answer. And I love it. There is a lot of technical things in there, which I like. I'm glad you brought them. Yeah. So, Josephine, how would you also answer this question? Okay. 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 Yeah, that's very awesome. Thank you very much. See you. That is a perfect answer. Thank you very much. Jude, do you want to also say something? I don't know, Jude, if you can hear me, or maybe your network is unstable. That is fine. Martin, do you want to say something? Wow. Okay, that is very fine. Don't worry. Um, Fridolin, if your network is stable now and probably you heard the question and you want to say something, you can actually say. So the question is, you are working on a data set, or you are working with a data set as a data scientist. This data set has a lot of columns, I mean variables. Some of these variables are categorical, others are also numerical. But each or the variables have missing values in them, both the categorical and the numerical variables. How are you going to handle these missing values? Fridolin, did you hear me? Okay, so what will be your okay? That's awesome. So you see, okay, let's give Fridolin some time, maybe 1 minute, and then we are good to go. Ali, I've been working since morning. My breath, see you from your Juma. Oh, Metis, Metis, the only one behind. I see, that's true. That's true. Yeah, Fridolin, I read. Okay, thank you very much, Charlie. That's a good answer. Drop it. Okay. Okay, that's awesome. It's a good answer. Thank you very much. So is it all of us answered in our own way? We were saying one thing, but in a like different ways. Some were technical, some were more general, right? So you may think you may know. I know all of you know, but how to put the things together and then say is the issue, right? And that is what sets you apart. So understanding or having very clear understanding of what you are doing in everyday data science projects, and then in our case the class and all those things are very crucial. Now the question was, how do you handle them? So there are two things to do. You either do one when you have missing values in the data set. You either drop that particular column or the missing values, or you impute. Now the decision to either impute or um, to drop, just like Josephine Fridolin and Vesta said, when the data set is actually or when the missing values are 50% or more, you know that we basically have to drop the column. And another time too, if let's say another scenario is if the missing values are very small, let's say just one or two or three, and you have like 100,000 rows, you can drop that entire row which is having that missing value in that particular variable, because you still have a lot of data to do that. But most of the times we don't want to be deleting data sets, so you want to impute. In other words, replace the missing values. Now, if it is categorical, you know that sometimes you replace it with the mode, the category or the class that appears the most, because there is a higher probability that it will be that one. You can also choose to, if you have two classes, which is a binary case, let's say gender, male and female, and males are very, very few in the data set. You'd be like, to kind of like bring some kind of balance, any of the missing values, I would represent it with the lower or the smaller, class or the minority, so that we have some kind of balance in or between the two. So these decisions also, when it is numerical, you can either impute by the mean or the median. And we know if the data is quite, it is skewed, either negative or positive. In other words, if the mean and the median are very, they are not close to each other, then you know that there are some kind of outliers, or some kind of the data is not skewed, it's not uniformly distributed, sorry, so it is skewed. In that way, you use the median since it is always the best. It actually predicts or tells the center of the data set. That's why we call them central tendencies, which we would do statistics. We will tackle statistics in subsequent sections. Now, if it is not to, you can also replace it with a with a mean. So the question was how. So it is either you impute or you drop. Then you talk about when do you drop and then when do you impute. Simple as that. So you see how to organize your thoughts quickly and then bring something meaningful is very, very important. Something we mostly look down on, and it is very, very powerful. So this is one question I was asked, and then yeah, I answered it just like you also did. It was awesome. Another session of most of the times, data science interviews, like the one I had, that same interview, part one was the questions like these technical questions. Part two, the other questions, when we get there, I would tell you guys right now, you don't know them. They are about mostly machine learning stuff. Two, or the part two was where I did live coding challenge. So he sent me the notebook, Google Colab notebook, and I shared my screen and I offed the AI, I mean the autocomplete in the Google Colab, and the questions were in there. So do this, do that, do this, do that, and you are timed. So how you do it and those things and your quickness is actually what determines, I mean, whether you know what you're doing or not. So all I want to tell you guys is that for tech world, the interviews are quite tough, but once you are through, I mean, it's much more rewarding than the other ones. Yeah. So we need to sit up and then learn. In as much as you are learning your codes and you are coding and you are loving the programming, very soon you'll start building models and all this stuff. Understand the basic concept of what you're doing, the what is, and then I mean the conceptual side of it too as well. It is very, very important because if you don't know what linear regression is and you can build a linear regression model very well, then you cannot really most of the times apply it to real world scenarios because you cannot know which scenario fits linear regression and which one fits classification and all those stuff. Yeah, so that is some of the few tips I want to share with you. I'm sure if you've not had an interview yet, let's say a professional interview about job in your life, you will soon have because most of us are on the verge of graduating. But if you want to be like Josephine, a CEO, like what I dream to be, you can also, I mean, you don't know, you never know where you find yourself. So at least some of these things you should be aware of. Yeah. Had it not been time factor, we would have done much more. But I just wanted to tell you, I mean, share this kind of experiences with you, in as much as so from now going, whilst you are learning your codings and all those stuff, be keeping in mind, and training yourself to understand these things, on you, let them be on your fingertips, so that you can always deliver them when they are expected. Yeah. If you want to, please, registration. Yeah, it is recorded and I'm going to upload it right after this thing. So if you want to also know more about the skills and the stuff about the data science world, you should go to LinkedIn and you go to the type job side job side of it. I mean the job portal, and you search for data science roles. Maybe you filter the entry roles. You see the requirements and all those stuff. Then you ask yourself, now I've started a boot camp. Which of these do I have? You get it in now. Which of those don't I have? Check like two, three jobs on daily basis. It will help you know what skills are in demand now and how you're going to, adapt yourself to that. Josephine, you can ask a question. Yeah, yeah, I get you. That's a very good question. the truth is so for data science or any data science actual data science role, you are going to do most of the codings, and about 95% of the companies out there are using Python. If you use R, maybe you are working for a research educational research institute or something like that, or on a very rare, if you see 100 data science jobs, it will be maybe one or only two, let's say either two or only one jobs which will require maybe R. At least Python will be in, and they expect you to know packages, I mean Python packages for data science, like pandas, like Matplotlib, the visualization stuff. And we have other companies too based on the role. They have some specific, stuff too they use. But if you are cool with the basic ones, if the rule is not really strict, which most of them aren't. If you are very, very cool with your basic stuff, they can train you. They assume that this person can be trained easily on our internally, I mean, use systems, or maybe the things we are actually, or the tools we are using specifically for our staff. But some jobs can be very specific, tell you that we want this, and that. But so far, my experience has been that if you know Python and you master the data science packages very well, that is all. Jason, I don't know whether I answered your question. Yeah. So that is, I mean, the whole sum of the thing. So you can go on LinkedIn always to check those things. You will see what I'm trying to, like they cut across with similar job titles here. So guys, the forum is open. You can ask your questions here. And before you go, I need let me just put this across. I need a graphic designer. I mean a good one to join Homeschool Academy. You would be with us and we would sign a contract. We will know how we work together. At least we want someone who knows what he or she is doing. Yeah. You work from wherever you are, not necessarily being here. Or not necessarily if you can recommend someone, that's fine. Yeah. So no more questions. I mean, okay, I think today most of you guys were having issues with your network and those stuff. So like today basically was like to give a prep of our first version of interview sessions, like giving you an overview of what is happening. With time we would be scheduling, interviews with ourselves. Like maybe today is for Vesta, Josephine, and maybe Martin. And then we will give you, what to read about and some probable questions to be asked. And then the rest of us will be pundits. I'll ask the questions and we will judge how, you know, we actually performed. Everybody will give his or her opinion, like very honest opinions about us, and then we would. I think it will build your confidence because right now there's a lot of rules out there which if you are able to land a remote rule, which is very, I mean, most of them are very good. Yeah, I don't like freelancing again because the freelancing, if you're doing it on a platform, it's quite this thing. But if you are freelancing on your own, it's important. I mean, it's lucrative. Yeah. And Josephine, your hand is up. You can ask a question. LinkedIn. Yeah. So LinkedIn is a good place, but we also have other sites you can look at depending on the kind of job you want. Most of my jobs have been around the tech, the coding stuff. If it is that one, if you're a developer, if you're a data scientist, you can check Turing.com, Turi. Okay, but that one needs very high level of experience, and the process is very tiring. I mean, like very hard, honestly, very very hard, because even the kind of Python exams you write, Charlie, one way you give up, and they do that because they feel like it will give them the top 1% people they want, right? And once you get this thing, you write a lot of, you even do a lot of interviews and all those stuff. Once you go through all of them, you would um, you would then be matched to a company, something like that, if the company is interested in you. And then you talk about rates. Their rates are very good. We have some of them $12 an hour, which should make you like $2,000 in a month. We have some of them, depending on your level of experience, you get it. Yeah. And they pay for them if you are taking $2,000 a month. They will pay to your account like 2,000, no tax deducted. So they will tell you you should settle your taxes with your government, which I will never go and tell GRA that I am earning $2,000, so we are getting tax. No, or I'm not a good citizen. I'm not saying I'm earning $2,000. I'm giving an example. Yeah. And I think Fridolin knows has also posted. There's a lot of them, job, flex job, and all those stuff. Flex job. Let me flex job, and we have a lot of them there. Yeah, I'm a good citizen. Yeah, Fridolin, that's why I like you. The politicians are spending their money on young girls and all this stuff. So if I learn my stuff and I get, and one thing I want to say is that with Turing, most of the companies are in the US, so you work like 4 hours overlap. So mostly you start working from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. 9 hours. Normally 9 hours a day week. But 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. is a compulsory this thing you have to. That is where you have your meetings, you'll be assigned duties and all this stuff. I don't know. I don't know exactly like the role. If it is something like data science and let's say you're working on, you are a data scientist to like a startup. You analyze your data to give them. Let's say it is a sales. I mean, a supermarket or something like that. You would analyze their data to give them insights. So they will always be you meet like you'll be talking with a lot of stakeholders and you talk with them most of the times about their problems and your findings as well. So a lot of meetings, your days will be will be filled with a lot of meetings and you know you also do your coding stuff and all this stuff. But I don't know. We also have things like virtual. I think Josephine will be very, very good for a virtual assistant. Where with virtual assistants, mostly you help. I know you understand what virtual is. It's like a physical this thing to say like a physical assistant in the physical world, where this is a virtual assistant. So people are very busy. You can help them like executives and all those stuff. You plan their day for them and all those stuff, and it is paid quite well. That one is much more flexible than the coding one. So, Fridolin, you can ask a question. Yeah, so it's more like cloud computing. So a virtual computer is like, you, you have a physical computer you use it, but we can set some. I think all of us know about cloud computing, like Google Drive and those things, where you save your things in the cloud. they are on some servers in the US, Europe, where you don't know. So we can also set, if you want to see, when we see a virtual machine, a typical example of a mini virtual machine is something like Google Colab, where you have, when you go on Google Colab, you can see that you have a placed code, you have even RAM, you have a storage, you have a GPU, you get it. So it's like a mini computer where you are coding. So you can also set virtual classes for a lot of things, which can let virtual computers actually, they exist in the web. So a lot of people can access them at the same time. You get it. So it is a very good thing. I'm sure he is a cloud solutions engineer or maybe a cloud architect. I mean, he has something about cloud computing. Yeah. So depending on your skills, you can have job from, depending on your skills. You are paid to do a lot of things, honestly. So Martin said, what about Fiverr? Fiverr is a freelancing site. There you don't get a full time this thing. It is freelancing. Freelancing is like I have my this thing. You and I will negotiate, and then you say, "Well, I'll take you say 10 cities. You do, I pay you, I take the work and go." That's all. So that is what Fiverr, Upwork, and those ones are. But if you want like a role, like sign a contract, full time or part time contract, and work for some number of maybe years or something, Fiverr and Upwork are not the place to go. They are for freelancing. Yeah, we even have freelancer.com if you want to actually freelance. Yeah. I don't know if you guys have more questions to ask. Okay, so I don't know. Yeah, Martin said okay. I don't know if you don't have any questions. Maybe probably we can end it here, and we start machine learning on